Hello and welcome back to a new episode of Workshop Diaries. Today we're going to be making buttons and some new needle cozies. Well, I'm going to cut the fabric for them. And of course, welcome to any new viewers. Welcome to my yarny universe. I am Gitte. First of all, I'm a yarn lover. I am a crafter, and I have my small shop called Ronja Crafts. You can find my shop online, where I sell all the things I craft. As a yarn lover, I find it quite important for me to make my projects into something special. There will always be my little break from the world, a place where and a time I have for myself. So it's important for me to make these projects special. And one of the ways I can make my project special is by having some unique accessories. Here I am making some buttons. Unique buttons is the dot over the I on my projects anyway. That's how I feel. I think they are important to make whatever I make more personal. So I couldn't find the buttons I wanted for my projects, and I got the idea I could make them myself. And this time I'm making buttons out of clay. And here I'm warming it up. It needs to be softened by working with it. I wouldn't say I'm not the best in the world making these. I'm not like some who can make amazing things with clay. It's not what I'm good at, but I can make buttons, and I'm quite happy with the buttons I make. And I sold a few of them because when I get started I always make a bunch. So I know other people appreciate the work that I do. Here I've taken some leftover clay from other projects, and I just combined colors that I found that looks pretty together, and it's warm fall color, some brown and green and yellow, and I used this stamp. I was inspired and thought this is like leaves in the fall, so I found a mold that has a leaf shape, and I make it into the clay, push it down. Some of them are good the first time, but not all of them. It's sometimes it just perfect. Other times I need to do it more than once. They're quite functional clay buttons, actually. I burn them in an oven. They need to be heat treated, and then they get hard as stone, and you can wash them. I'm not sure if I would put them in a washing machine. I would be afraid that they would splinter or something. So I always hand wash mine. I know people who put them in a washing machine and they had no problems. I just haven't tried it, so I always recommend do your hand washing. I use them on my knitted garments, so those I hand wash anyhow, so it's not that much extra work. And now the more difficult, I need to lift them up, get them off the table without breaking them. The clay is turning soft so and crumples somehow, so I just put them in rows in this aluminium tray. I use this tray lots of times, so it's quite used, but I can reuse it. It's no problem in that. And then I pinch the buttonholes. Here I go all the way through, but it's not necessary to go all the way through because at a later state in finishing up these buttons, I always use my Dremel to sand them down and use the effort to go into the buttonhole so there are no sharp corners. I think it's quite important to trying to make as nice a finish as possible on these buttons. Yeah, they're quite delicate at this state. They quite easily fall apart, so I need to be quite careful. And it's not always that the holes are in the same place, but I think that's the fine thing about handmade buttons. They're not alike. They're not 100% alike. They're similar, but not the same. You have the feeling that every button is unique, and that's the feeling I go for. Yeah, well, the clay is so soft, it sits in the mold I use to make the holes with, so I just use a pin to try and get as much as the clay out of there. And after making all the buttons, they go into an oven, quite low heat, and for an hour or so before they're done. And from there I just put the buttons in my pipeline of things that needs to be finished up. I don't know why, but I do like breaking up the crafting process. I do it with a lot of the things I make. I do one stage and then I put it down and take it, bring it back at a later time and do the finishing work. I think it's like with my knitting. I always have a lot of whips, work in progress going on. At least 8 or 10 works in different bags, and a sweater here and a pair of socks there, and perhaps even a dishcloth. And then I do some work and then I put it down and take another project and work on that and then go back. And I'm not quite sure why I find that satisfying, but I do, so that's the way I work when I do crafting. I know that other people, some people I know, they're more tidy in the way they work. They start a project and they work on that one project until they're done. Which kind are you? Let me know in the comments. Do you have many works in progress of different kinds of crafts, or do you have one? You start one and then you finish one. I would like to know. And if you have an idea of why you work the way you do, that could be quite interesting to know. I'm not sure why I feel the need to break it up, but I do, and I find it satisfying somehow. Now I'm going to prepare for another needle case, needle cozy. I've made a few of them. I've also shown in one of my videos, in one of my workshop diaries, making one. kind of needle cozies. And they've been quite popular. I haven't got that many left, just a few, especially on markets. People love them on the markets I go to. I have a sock project with me so they can see how they work and how I use them, so I don't drop any stitches. I hate dropping stitches. I really do. And I'm the type, I take my knitting everywhere, especially my sock knitting, because they are so handy, small projects. They fit in a small bag. So I have them with me almost everywhere I go. I seldom leave the house without my sock knitting. And it's just so tiresome and demotivating if when I take out my sock knitting and I just lost a pin and then a whole row of stitches just needs to be corrected. I hate that. And yeah, you heard me. I knit socks on double-ended needles. I have tried circular needles, but I don't quite find the rhythm of it. Perhaps because I've knitted for so many years on double-pointed needles, so it feels right in my hands. And the needles I got is quite special. They're my grandma's needles I inherit, so they're special to me. And there's always a sock on them. I always knit a sock. So, but I have sold most of the needle cozies I have sewn, so I'm making some more. And I just found this fabric, the blue with yellow flowers, and I thought it was quite pretty. So that was going to be one side of it. And I have this piece of cardboard that I cut to the size, so it's a kind of pattern, so I know how big the pieces of fabric needs to be. And as you can see, it's not a big deal cutting the fabric. I just swirl it around my cardboard and cut it. I do have one of those blades, wheel blades. I do have one of those, but I just bought these fabric scissors, and they're great. I love using those, and most of the time I just find it easier. So that's what I do, and in this case it's just snip snip. Yeah, well, here I'm just trying to figure out, is it easier with the wheel? I'm just trying it out. Is it easier? If I take the wheel here, is it easier to just cut it with the wheel? Trust me, it wasn't. So in a bit I'm going back to the scissors because I do like using the wheel. I do. In some situation it's the easiest to use the wheel, but not, I found out, not in this situation. Just wait a minute, and I'm going back to the scissors. Yeah. Told you it wasn't easier. I do feel that at this point I have the urge to craft. It's not always I have the time that I would wish for crafting, but the urge to craft is quite big right now, because of the state of the world. There's so much conflict and war and scary things going on out there. The economy is affected in so many ways, and well, it gives me the urge to craft, and I think it's because I find some inner peace. It's like I can keep all the bad things in the world, I can keep those out, and for just a few moments while I craft. So it's like giving myself a little break from all the difficult things in the world. In my busy day at work, it's a break from that, and it's a break from the news with all the wars in the world. For me, crafting is kind of like mindfulness. I give myself and my mental health a little break. It works for me, anyhow, and I can hear when I talk to my friends and colleagues, and lots of them feel the same way. Even my mother, as she says, there isn't a divorce you can't knit your way out of. And I quite agree with her. When life gets tough or you have too much on your mind, crafting is the way to go. It is for me, anyway. Do you feel the same way as I do? Do you feel the urge to craft when everything seems to be a bit chaotic, or if you have a stressful every day, or you think that it's too complicated? Do you knit or crochet more, or whatever your crafting love is at the moment? Is that something you do, or is it just in my family? Yeah, see, I found this other fabric, grey with yellow leaves and white flowers, and I thought it could be quite nice together with the blue. So I think I'll make that the inner fabric and the blue the outer in the needle cozy. Some days, if I've had a really, really busy day at work, some days it's even enough just to get home, sit on the sofa and just squeeze a ball of yarn. I can just feel how my shoulders go down, my breathing gets slower. I'm not sure why that works that way, but it does. And I feel it when I have that 5-minute break at work and I find my sock project. I can feel how I relax inside. Do you knit at work where you are? I know I'm not the only one at my work. I'm a school teacher. And we are a few who takes our knitting with us and sit in the break room and knit. And also if I need to go and watch the kids in a break, I take my knitting with me and I just stand in the hallway with my knitting and have an eye on the children and knit away. I usually don't have the time when I teach, but sometimes if we have reading time, I sometimes take out my knitting, and I have a feeling that the children relax in another way as well. It makes it a bit more cozy, or as we say here in Denmark, hygge. Well, sometimes I find my own book and start reading with them, or read out loud, and then I'm not knitting. But sometimes I am. And then, of course, we have those long meetings. I have told my boss that I'm much better at listening. When I'm knitting. So he accepts it. And there is evidence that supports that if you have something in your hand, knitting, crocheting, you remember and you are listening much better. It's quite like we do with the children sometimes. If they have too much energy inside and can't sit still, we find a small squeeze thing or something to have in their hands they can sit and just fiddle around with, and it's easier for them to concentrate. It works quite the same for me, having my knitting with me. I do like this fabric. It's so summer somehow, isn't it? The yellow and the white flowers, and it just screams summer. I'm quite excited. I think they're going to be quite pretty, these needle cozies. Do you use needle cozies? I'm not sure they're that common in Denmark. I first saw them at a YouTuber from the America, I think. From the United States. Of course, it was the Crazy Sock Lady. It was in one of her. I do like watching the Crazy Sock Lady. So, and what's it called? She's called Taylor. Her name is Taylor. I think her channel's called Woolly Needle Hands or something like that. I've seen a lot of hers. She's good at explaining things. I learned a lot from her about yarn and fibers and knitting, and if I do remember right, she's an indie dyer as well. And she always makes it so cozy when she sits there and explains a lot of things. And let's see, who do I like watching? Oh yeah, of course, Hannah. I'm a big fan of Hannah. I've seen Hannah for quite some years now. And yeah, well, Hannah. Her name is Hannah, and her channel is called Corner of Craft. I think most people heard of her. If you haven't, I can recommend watching some of her videos. And beside that, well, Kim Bliss, of course. That's not about yarn. That's more about having a small business with handmade items. I do love Kim Bliss as well. Who do you watch? Do you have a YouTuber? Especially about yarn. I do love anything about yarn that you can recommend me. Is there someone out there I should check out? Write it in the comments and I'll take a look. I need inspiration. Well, now I'm done cutting the fabric. Now I'm going to cut the padding. I really do like quilted items, so I quilt a lot of my items as well. Also these needle cozies, and for that I use this padding. I just cut it roughly at size. It needs to be oversized. Yeah, well, those I just snipped off. They couldn't be used for this. So I just cut them roughly at size, oversized, because the fabric somehow always gives a bit. So oversize, it doesn't need to be that perfect in size, just so I'm sure that the fabric can be covered, and then I just cut a few of those. I don't make that large batches, and that's, again, I love items to be almost unique. If I wanted something that there were thousands of, you could choose to buy something commercially made. I do that. It's not that I don't like commercially made things. I buy lots of commercially made things, but I do like to have some special items that the whole world don't have, to make my projects feel special. So when I make stuff, I think people perhaps feel like me. So it's quite small batches. This batch of needle cozies is going to be a batch of 6. I've cut out for 6 of these, and I won't be making them again, so 6 people in the world can get one of these when I've sewn them up. I'm not going to do that in this episode. Perhaps I'm going to do that in the next episode. I think I will. In the next episode of Workshop Diaries, I'm going to sew them up. Why not? I can take you through the process. And now these tiny bits and scraps, I keep them because you never know. I'll probably get an idea to do something. Yeah, well, I used up one, so I needed to get another one. I buy them in squares, just small squares, and then I cut them up. I like to have them in smaller pieces. I feel they are easier to handle. I don't need a big roll. Even though I do use quite a lot of it, I actually need to go and get some more soon. It's always dangerous going to get these things because it means I need to go into the fabric shop. And when I get into that fabric shop, well, I get tempted. It's like buying yarn. I can go with the object to buy a certain yarn and a certain amount, and when I get out of the shop, well, if I'm lucky, I have the yarn that I went for, and then an extra bag of yarn that I fell in love with. And it's okay to fall in love with yarn. It's the same with fabric for me. I can go into the shop and just say, well, I need some padding, and come out of the shop with a whole bag of yarn or of fabric. Lovely, lovely fabric in beautiful colors and patterns, and yeah, well, you know the drift. And I let myself do it because, well, it's fun, makes me happy, so why not? I get to use it, so it's not a waste. Well, I think this video is long enough. Thank you so much for watching. Please join me again and see the needle cozies get finished. Bye.